This video is a quick review for Unit 2 on graphing linear equations. What you see here are some of the different forms of linear equations we saw in this unit. The first one, right here, y equals negative 1/3 x plus 5, is in what we call slope-intercept form because the slope, right here, negative 1/3, and the y-intercept are very obvious from the equation. That makes it pretty quick to graph with those two pieces of information. The second type is right here. This equation is in standard form, and what I suggested during the unit was that we use a table of values to graph this equation. Over here, we've got x equals 7 and y equals negative 2. These are two special cases of vertical and horizontal lines that I want to remind you of a good way to graph those. I'll also do just one more on the next screen. So the first one, y equals negative 1/3 x plus 5. Again, slope-intercept form means that the slope and the y-intercept are obvious right away. So m is our slope. We use m to represent slope typically, and that's negative 1/3. B is what we use to represent our y-intercept, which is this value right here, positive 5. Remember that we use the term begin with B and move with M. So we're going to begin at the y-intercept, which is B. We're going to begin at the y-intercept of 5. So we're going to go ahead and put a point where y equals 5, and that again is on the y-axis, so right there. From there, we're going to move using our slope, negative 1/3. Remember, that means we're going to rise negative 1, which is down 1, and we're going to run 3, which is positive, so that'll be right. So from this point right here, we're going to rise negative 1, that's down 1, and we're going to run 3. 1, 2, 3, to the right. So right there is where our other point is going to go. Remember that there's an infinite number of points on a line, but this is 2 points that we use to graph our line. So now we can graph our line through those 2 points. The second example, 3x minus 2y equals 12, again is in what we call standard form, and it's the type that I suggest you use a teeny tiny table to graph. A table is x and y values where we input a number for x or y and we get the corresponding other variable value, and then we can plot the point. So for example, we can start by putting a 0 in for x. When we do so, we're finding the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. When I put a 0 in for x, again that goes right here, 0 goes in for x, and we're going to solve for y. I'm running out of space here. So 3 times 0 is 0, so what we're left with is negative 2y, be careful with that negative 2y equals 12. Negative 2y equals 12, we have to divide both sides by negative 2, and we are going to end up with y equals negative 6. So that is our y value when x is 0. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a 0 in for y. Now I don't have a lot of space, so I'm going to go ahead and erase this part right here. Rewind the video if you want to see that again. And this time I'm going to put a 0 in for y. Alright, so 3x minus 2 times 0, put a 0 in for y, equals 12. 2 times 0 is 0, so we're left with 3x minus 0, which doesn't do anything, and we have equals 12. Now we're going to go ahead and divide by 3 on both sides of the equation, and we're going to get x, these make 1, x equals 4. So now we're going to plot these 2 points. These are separate points. So here's 1 point, 0, negative 6. 0, again, from the origin, 0, negative 6 means left or right 0, and then negative 6 on the y-axis. That's going to be right here. Then we're going to plot the point 4, 0, and 4, 0 means from the origin, right here. We're going to go 4 to the right because it's positive 4, and up or down 0. So it stays right there on the x-axis. And now we can draw our line through these 2 points. The equation x equals 7, I would recommend, again, using a table and reminding yourself, is this going to be vertical or horizontal? You might not remember, so reminding yourself that x equals 7 means no matter what x is, no matter what y is, x equals 7. So no matter what y is, x equals 7. So x is 7, x is 7, x is 7, no matter what y is. So now if we just put some values of y in, 0, 1, 2, we know that x is always 7. So now we're going to plot those points. 7, 0. This point is 7, 0. We're going to go to the right 7 on the x-axis, up or down 0. There it is. 7, 1. So 7 on the x-axis, 1 on the y-axis. That's right here. Whoops, right there. If I can get that point. And then 7, 2. 7 on the x-axis, 2 on the y-axis. That's going to be right here. Obviously, those 3 points create a vertical line at 7. Now, y equals -2. Y equals -2 means that no matter what x is, y is -2. So now we can put in any x values, 0, 1, or 2, or any. I mean, you could put 17 in there, it doesn't matter. No matter what, y is -2. So 0 on the x-axis, -2 on the y-axis is right here. Then 1, now we did that one, now we're here, 1, -2. So 1 on the x-axis, -2 on the y-axis will be here. And 2 on the x-axis, -2 on the y-axis is right here. So again, all 3 points land on the line where y equals -2. The last thing I want to show you in this review is that you can always use a table to graph a line. Okay? If you forget that this is in y equals mx plus b form, or you forget how to graph in some other form that you've got in front of you, you can always fall back on the good old xy table of values. Because again, what x and y represent in this equation, what x and y represent, are any xy coordinate pair that is on the line. So if we use a table of values, we can input a value, typically for x, and then find the corresponding y value, and then put that in the table, and then plot your points, and you'll have the line. So don't stress out if you're like, oh, I don't remember what's m, I don't remember what's b, I don't remember how to plot it, I don't know how to move. Don't worry. Instead, just go ahead and make a table of values and fall back on this process. So, for example, I can put, the easiest number for x, in my opinion, is to put a 0 in. Okay? So I'm going to take our equation, y equals -2, put a 0 in for x, plus 3, and I'm going to solve this. Y equals -2 times 0 is 0 plus 3, and 0 plus 3 is 3. So I know my y value is 3 when my x value is 0. Now I'm going to go ahead and do another one. So this time I'm going to put 1 in for x. So I've got y equals -2 times 1, putting 1 in for x, plus 3. Okay, so y equals -2 times 1 is -2 plus 3, and y equals -2 plus 3, which is 1. So we know that when x is 1, y is 1. Okay, and then we can go ahead and do yet another. Let's put a 2 in for x. Again, you can use any value you want to. So y equals -2. I'm going to put a 2 in for x plus 3. Again, we're always going back up to this original equation, putting a number in here for x. So y equals -2 times 2 is -4 plus 3, and -4 plus 3 is -1. So when x is 2, y is -1. Now we have 3 points that we can plot on the graph, on the coordinate plane. Now remember, we could have just used 2 points, but I always put 3 to make sure that if we make a mistake, we can try to find the mistake. So 0, 3, 0 on the x-axis, 3 on the y-axis is right here. Make sure you're practicing your plotting your points. 1, 1 1, 1 is found at 1 on the x-axis, 1 on the y-axis, so that is right here. And then our last one is 2, negative 1. So 2 on the x-axis, negative 1 on the y-axis, and there's that point there. Notice all 3 of those points are right on that same line, so now we can go ahead and draw our line through those 3 points, and we're good to go. No need to try to figure out what's M, what's B if you've forgotten.